The year was 1945 and the World War II just ended.
Fuck you, I'm out.
And at the same time, the Korean territory was split in two parts. The north part occupied by the Sovietics and the south part occupied by the American people, of course. So in the 1950s, they decided to do the Parallel 38, which is a line that divides the Korean territory in two parts. The communist north part and the capitalist south part. And even though these two countries were enemies, they didn't like to divide their territory. So in the 1950s, the Korean War has begun. It began with the North Korea invading the South Korea and taking its territory. And South Korea were losing territory except for one part, Busan, which is a city in the most south of South Korea. While South Korea was desperate for help, the American people went to help them. It's always the Americans. They are in the other side of the world, they have nothing to do with the history, but still with the North Korea invading the South Korea and gaining more territory means that the communism was gaining more and more territory, and that's not good for the Americans because they're capitalists. So the Americans sent troops to South Korea and they gained the territory again. But not only that, gaining South Korea territory again was not enough. So that's when the Americans decided to go even more north, entering the territory of North Korea. And they were doing really well because they even got the capital of North Korea. They gained so much territory that their troops went up north to the border with China. But China didn't like that. So that's when China entered the war and decided to fight the American people and the South Korean people to gain back the territory of North Korea again. And that's the story that you know so far. North Korea is communist and South Korea is capitalist. And the border between those countries is very dangerous, except for one part, which is a part that there is no military, and this part is possible to visit. Is this a good idea to visit this part? I don't know, but I'm going there right now. But before, I had to interview a Korean guy to know what he thinks about all of this. Because in my country, in Brazil, we don't have any dangerous neighbor. We have like Argentina, Paraguay, Uruguay. Those are really friendly guys. But here, they have the fucking North Korea close to them. So I had to interview him to see what he knows. So I'm here with Jin. This guy has a really good YouTube channel where he interviews people here in the streets of South Korea.
Hi, my name is Jin from Jin Street Interview. I'm really glad to be here with Via Infinda.
Ah, cool.
Yeah.
He got the name right.
Yeah.
A lot of people get the name wrong. I have some really good questions for him about this country, which is an amazing country that we're visiting these days. First question is, how is it to have a neighbor like North Korea?
So like a lot of people from other countries, they think there's a North Korea and there's a like crazy dictator every time like threatened with nuclear weapon. So people think South Korea is not too safe and South Koreans are kind of afraid of North Korea. But actually, South Koreans don't really care because every time they threaten us, never happened.
Yeah.
And we don't take it really seriously. I think people expect that it will not happen.
It will not happen.
We woke up at 5 a.m. take the bus. This is the bus that's heading us to North Korea. Unfortunately, a lot of people died one of these days in the Halloween parties, and they're putting flowers there. Let's go for the bus. So after 4 hours waiting and on the road, they just told us that we cannot enter. The military just entered the bus and say that we cannot enter now.
And then you can see front there with the CC line, civilian access control line.
So we just came to observatory to see the North Korean side, and that's it. All of those mountains there across the river, that's all North Korea. And here they also have some pictures of the daily life of Pyongyang residents, the capital of North Korea. North Korea right there. And this is how they live. So the plan was just to visit the demilitarized zone in the border of South Korea and North Korea. But unfortunately, the North Korea was testing missiles this day. So it was too dangerous to just go being like a tourist. So they closed this zone today and we had to go to another zone, which was the observatory. But there were so many people observing North Korea and the guys there start to get angry. So we only stayed there for like 5-10 minutes. We didn't see many things. I could see something like this in there. Yeah, that's what happened. Well, I just got to the War Memorial of Korea and look at this statue behind me. This statue represents every single person that was affected by the war. So it shows adult men, children, teenagers, and even moms. So this statue represents really well who are affected by the war, every single person. And in this place, you can actually have access to the war guns, like the aircraft, the ships, and you can actually get close and also touch them, see them by the details. Man, war is a thing that's not like human, it's something else. I actually got inside one of them. Man, imagine you're like seeing the battlefield through this view and like killing people through this view, and imagine the heat of the war and the heat of the moment. You're in this box of metal in the war zone and you have all these buttons and oh man, seriously. Alright, but how South Korea developed so much? $1.8 trillion of GDP, that's bigger than Brazil, and a population of 50 million people. How this miracle happened to South Korea? During the war, South Korea's situation was catastrophic. In 1954, the average wage for the South Korean people were $64 a year. And in the same year, the average wage for the American people were $2,400. Alright, so coming back to the same question, how South Korea developed so fast? And the answer is right here. The economic miracle of South Korea is due to the chaebols. But what is a chaebol? Imagine you work for Samsung here in South Korea. So you wake up in the morning and you check your phone, which is a Samsung phone. And you enter your car, which is not a Samsung car, but it was made from Samsung. And also the insurance of your car is a Samsung insurance. Yeah, you got the picture. These brands like LG, Samsung, Hyundai, they made everything in this country. And this building behind me, it's a hospital. And you must be thinking, why this hospital has a Samsung logo in the front of the building? Because it's a Samsung hospital. And man, this hospital is really big. And guess what? Samsung also has an entire city here in this country. The name is Samsung Digital City. They have 30,000 people working and maybe living in there. Gyms, parks, places for your kids and everything. So these brands like Samsung, LG, Hyundai, they helped a lot be what South Korea is today. Of course, with the help of the government. But there's also another thing that helps as much as these brands, which is the people here in South Korea that they work a lot. Some people say that they are workaholics. And there's even a word for this in here. The name is guarosa, which is for people that work too much. This is a really good question because I'm really interested to know the answer. How South Korea developed so fast? Because in the 1960s, I remember, a history book says that South Korea was like a really poor country with like a very rural country. But now I see the metro system, for example. I never see a metro system like this. And the city, like all the buildings. And I just wonder how it developed so fast, because in Brazil it would take like 1,000 years and for you guys took like 50 years.
It's kind of long culture that like Koreans emphasize a lot in education, because I don't know, their parents always want their kid to have a good education and getting into a good university. I think one of the reasons is Korea doesn't really have natural resources, so human resources are quite important in our country. And also, I would say Koreans are very diligent and they always try to do something very efficiently and very fast. So we have this kind of phrase that 빨리 빨리. It means we have to do everything really quickly. So that makes Koreans do something very efficiently and make the development.
And this is war until these days. These missiles launched by North Korea this other day, man, that was 23 missiles launched and they crossed the parallel 38. So that was a really strong message from North Korea, and the United States is now sending a lot of airplanes to help South Korea in case if something happens. Well, to be honest, I'm a little afraid to be in South Korea right now. But in this video, I showed you a little bit about North Korea, South Korea, and the difference about these two countries. Hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to subscribe and see you in the next video.